Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Online Darts Live Lounge with me, Phill Bars, and of course, joined by always Jarleth and Jack Gobby Garwood. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
Evening, Phil. How are you? Yes, all good over here, my friend. It is certainly an interesting 6 days. How do you finding life outside of the bubble right now? Must ask.
Yeah, it's nice to be home for 72 hours or whatever it is around that sort of number before heading back to the bubble. So yeah, it's different. Nice to be in my own bed, but normality. Nah, I can't wait to get back. If I'm being honest, I never thought I'd say I'm missing Milton Keynes.
You're probably the only person.
I don't think anyone's ever said that before, have they?
No, nothing at all. But no, what a week it's been. It must be said. To be fair, I think it's just been one of those mad weeks where we haven't really seen this in the Premier League for a long time. Where every night we think, "Oh, it can't get better," and then it does.
Oh, it's been mint. It warmed up, it tickled our taste buds, and then bang, we had the main courses. Just some unbelievable darts, some drama, some action, some needle, some social media blitzes from players. It's had it all. But yeah, no,
just a bit.
It's been
normally,
go on.
Normally, I tend to find that the second phase of the Premier League tends to peter out a little bit. You get all the drama building up to Judgment Night, and then it sort of tails off a bit right up until the night before finals night. But actually, it's got even better as we've moved on to phase two, and that's what the Premier League should be about.
Yeah, 100%. It's all to play for. No one's running away with it. It's all close. In theory, all 8 can still make the playoffs. Unlikely, I know, but in theory, could happen.
Yeah, but that isn't that the beauty of the whole thing? The fact that we're sitting here still saying that, even with Daryl Gurney, normally at this point, 8th place is just trying to play for 7th. But the fact is that, yeah, he can still get on to 16 points. And in this league, it might actually be enough.
Yeah, it might be, because the fact that everyone is beating everyone is the thing that you couldn't say going into a game, I really fancy him to win at the moment, because the betting over the last couple of days has gone out the window.
Off a beat, hasn't they?
I gave up after the second night. I gave up.
I'm happy. I'm happy enough. I'm happy enough on this one, because a nice little earner to end the week. Beautiful scenes. Darts is the winner, and I am as well. I am the Oracle.
And you still won't get the round in next time we see each other.
No, of course not. When is that ever happen? When's that ever going to happen?
So, gentlemen, we go for a short break here. 4 games to go. We're also going to run through the final night's action in a minute, because there was no daily, because obviously we were doing the show tonight, so we didn't want to go over everything twice. However, some talking points before we get into that. Jar, where we at the moment?
I heard there was a big admission coming tonight. I heard there was a big revelation coming out of Mr. Eaton's mouth tonight, and I think he might be about to side with me and you, Mr. Bars.
I do have a new best player in the world. And look, it's taken me a long time.
Does he suddenly throw kite flights?
No, he doesn't suddenly throw kite flights, because it's Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson's the best player in the world, Gob. Gary Anderson's my big admission. I've gone from Peter Wright, and I've moved over to his Scottish partner in the World Cup. Gary Anderson is the best player on planet darts.
I wish you were right, but you're just not.
I am, unfortunately. Look, I don't make the rules on this one. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. Gary's the best player in the world, hands down, at this moment in time. No, actually, no, not hands down at the moment. It is close. It is very close. and Glenn Durrant is second.
Look.
Peter Wright now third. But Ando is still
Are you
top
doing your level
of
best
my
to
list.
avoid agreeing with us two?
No. We'll come on to all this
I think
discussion
you
when
are.
we do the good week, bad week a little bit later. No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. Nearly I am. But I will tell you what I'll do. When we talk about good week, bad week, and we talk about who's had a good week and a bad week, I promise you, I will just tell you then why I believe that Gary Anderson currently is the best player in the world. But at the same time, look, we can't deny Glenn Durrant is up there, and he has had a great week in the bubble. And last night he won me £104. Cheers, Glenn. Got to say that. Thanks, mate. But we have to go on. Yes, but Phill Bars had an interview with him last night. That if you haven't watched on our YouTube channel, go and watch it once we finish this live show. And he actually said there from 201 he's the best player in the world, not from 501. And I'm agreeing with Glenn Durrant at this point.
Disagree. I think his scoring has got that much better since he swapped to these kite flights. The number of 180s he's hitting, just the sheer consistency in and around that treble. And even that wild dart that he has in his armory where he snatches a little bit or tries to throw that a little bit too hard. We're seeing that less often. Glenn Durrant, whether you want to admit it or not, is the best player in the world right now.
He doesn't want to admit it. So if he doesn't want to admit it, I don't have to admit it.
Glenn, until last night, didn't want to admit that he was going to win the Premier League phase. He's 4 points clear.
Look, we can only take what darts players say, Gob. And as you all know, darts players never underestimate themselves. They never play anything down. Glenn Durrant is always straight and honest about it, and he just never underplays anything. So I'm going to go with Glenn on this one.
Right. To be fair, spinning it, I still think Michael Van Gerwen is the best player in the world. However, I think Glenn Durrant is currently throwing the best darts in the world.
You are wrong, unfortunately. On that
I still think that no, he's not wrong, because if any player produces their top level game, Michael Van Gerwen is still the best.
The best player in the world.
It's how you quantify it. It's like the Phill versus Michael argument. Phill will always be the consistent title-winning machine that he was. Michael's top-level game is better than anything Phill ever produced, but the longevity of Phill will always make him the greatest darts player to ever lived.
Most successful. The only reason why. Successful. Can we word it right?
Yeah. We were discussing this on a Premier League Daily the other day, and this is my argument now. We can discuss this now and leave it in the comments as well, by the way, everybody watching on this show, about your thoughts on Phill and Michael. But here's my argument, Gob. Do we or do we not suggest that when Phill Taylor was winning titles at his pomp, the fact that he made every single final in the World Darts Championship when it was at the Circus Tavern, are we not going to sit here and say that the BDO was the better organisation still?
Maybe.
Yes, we are. Now,
Richie Burnett was massively underappreciated for a long time.
Correct, he was. Now, when, in my opinion, as I've always stated this, when Barney made the switch over in 2006, changed the game completely, opened up the market to new audiences, and the PDC then have just ran with it ever since. And, well, the BDO has just become a sham of itself, quite frankly. Now, ever since Phill has had that competition from Barney, there's been more winners of the World Championships. Yes, he's obviously won a couple of World Championships. He's won two, obviously in 2010 and in 2013, made a World Final, of course, in 2015. But apart from that, you've seen that as the strength of the PDC has gone, people have challenged him. Now, obviously, we have to go to the point that, by that point, he was in his 50s, which is ridiculous to be having that longevity. But at the peak of his powers, I don't know whether Raymond van Barneveld would have beat. I think Raymond van Barneveld, peak RBB, would have beaten peak Phill Taylor at that stage. And I don't remember a talent that has ever thrown a dart. Yes, I do. I do maintain. Peak RBB did beat him. He beat him twice. UK Open and the World Championship final in the greatest game that's ever been played.
I know you've had a heavy weekend,
not strong enough.
But I thought you'd sober up by now.
Mentally not strong enough.
Well, arguably,
we know you're
the
disappointed
greatest-
you're not in Belgium for the Grand Prix, mate, but you didn't have to drown your sorrows all weekend to come up with that nonsense.
It's not nonsense. Peak RVB would have beaten Peak Phill Taylor. I will happily maintain that now. And in 2007, RVB did beat him in the greatest game ever played.
Once.
No, there's
Twice,
no,
in
there's
fact.
No, there's
And
no
Barney
victory.
was still in his peak for the next 4 or 5 years. And how many titles did he deliver then?
Barney was at his peak. His peak then dropped back in 2008 because he had, according as Superdell always said to you, the greatest year of his life, as it always said on the commentary for Sky in the intro for years. Now, for me, there has been no better talent than Michael van Gerwen ever been thrown a dart, which is why I'm with Phil Bars on this one, that Michael van Gerwen is the greatest player to ever pick up a dart. That we know what he will ever touch what Taylor did, but you have to put it into context of the fact that I don't think he was really challenged that often in the PDC when the PDC was being brought through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but he's
To
still
a
the
degree,
goat. I love how no matter what topic we're talking about in darts, the minute Phil comes up, this is the conversation.
Yeah, it's always going to be back to point that what we were talking about, that for me, MVG is still the best player in the world. However, Glenn Durrant right now is throwing the best darts out of anyone in the world over the last month.
I still think Glenn's the best player in the world by virtue of the fact he's the most difficult man on the planet to beat right now.
And
in the sport, you're judged by your victories. Right now.
No, it was
form. Look, I get we're being very sensationalist in the it's since he's returned from the bubble and all that sort of thing, and the form that he carried before he did have that off night, shall we say, in that semi-final against Dimitri. And it is very sensationalist to judge it on such a short period of time with all these different things going on. But if we are just looking at this time period, Glenn Durrant is the best player in the world and has been for the last 2 to 3 months.
You can't say that because he didn't win a Summer Series event for a kickoff. He hasn't won a PDC title since February of last year. What do you want about?
How many titles have been offered since February?
What? No, February last year is in 2019. That was the last time he won a PDC. That was last time he's a 2-time Pro Tour winner. What are you on about? Like, look,
I said
I'm not
it's sensationalist
that
for
he's
what
not...
we're saying, but he is the best player in the world right now.
He's not.
The World Championship is tomorrow.
2v1 against him, Jar, you're outvoted.
If the World Championship is tomorrow, who are you putting your house on?
This is another point that I was going to come on to when we talked about Duzzer. At this moment in time, Glenn Durrant for me is the favourite to go and lift the World Championships at Alexandra Palace in January. Genuinely,
but you just told me he's not the best player in the world.
No, he's not. But at the moment, he's playing great.
He favours leg play over set play. He favours leg play over set play, and you've just made him favourite for the set play monster in 4 months' time.
He's got to won 3 World Championships, for God's sake. Like, he's not like exactly a scrub when it comes to the set play. He's a 3-time back-to-back-to-back BDO World Champion, the only person since Bristow to do it. Don't say he favours leg play over set play when he goes and wins 3 bloody titles.
He himself admits he favours leg play. He said it in one of his interviews with Phill earlier in the week.
Look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he said.
Pay attention, man. It's our own content.
Anyway, gentlemen, now you've had your lovers' tiff. We've got that out of the way. You can have make-up sex in a minute. Before we go on to last night's Premier League, just a quick couple of comments on YouTube. Remember, get them in. Oh, first of all, apologies that we can't stream to Facebook tonight. The good computer with the good internet is sadly out of action, so we're just to one platform only this evening. So obviously YouTube, and then we can share it from there. First of all, Bobby on YouTube. Evening, lads. Glenn Durrant will go and beat him for the rest of the Premier League season. Good call, Bobby. We like you. Also, is there a chance the live lounge can go on Acast? Jar, that's one for you.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get ourselves onto Acast. Unfortunately, we are working on it. Just bear with us. But like I say, at the moment, we're all on pretty much any of the platform provider at the moment. So Anchor, Apple, Spotify, Google, any of the podcasts that you can find on there. But we will try and get ourselves onto Acast. Just bear with us.
Cheers, Bobby. And he says quality content as always. Dave, when am I return to the Premier League? Wednesday morning, mate. Back on the road to Milton Keynes to get back into the bubble. And Lendl, great shirt, Phill. I know, just sporting some new online darts merch here. For the first time, busting it out. As always, right, gentlemen, Premier League talking points. That's what we're here for. And we haven't done it. So, night 12 from Milton Keynes, 4 unbelievable games. And they all had something. Let's start at the top. Nathan Aspinall against Gary Anderson. It was 8-6 to Ando, firing himself into contention for the playoffs. He's just bobbing along, Gary, isn't he? No, I can't do this. No, I can't do this. Hold my coat. Get out of my way. But the Asp will be kicking himself a little bit. The Asp will be kicking himself a little bit. In the middle part of that game, Gary was there for the taking a little bit, and he missed some big opportunities.
Yeah, he did. There's no doubt about that. But this is the thing I found about Nathan Aspinall recently. Like, my only concern with Nathan is the fact that he's going on at the moment and not winning big games. Like, obviously, he beat Michael Smith throughout the week, and we discussed that. But he had a chance to beat a very out-of-form Michael Van Gogh, and he didn't take it. Probably his worst performance of the week. And then he doesn't get the job done against Gary for a minimum point. Like, that's my only concern at this moment in time with the young Nathan Aspinall, in inverted brackets. That, like, he obviously belongs to that list. But this is the point that I've been making for the past, 3-4 days now. That it doesn't really matter if he doesn't go and win these games at this moment in time, because it's still only a point off the damn playoffs. It's mental.
Yeah, but that point could be a big point towards the end. If he loses out by a point, he'll look back at those results and absolutely kick himself, a bit like Gary Price did last year, when all those draws and drop points cost him a place at the O2. But moving on to Gary, it was a delight. And God, where are we with the phase 2 darts? Over the last week, you've gone from absolutely lambasting him for getting him out the draw.
Yeah.
Night number 1, best move he ever made. Night number 2 at Milton Keynes, what's he doing? And then by here we are now. Is it a good move?
I don't know. I'm still not sold on him, but last night was the first time that he's topped the maximum stats since the return to the bubble, which is what we're used to seeing Gary do. Yes, Michael Smith has been scoring exceptionally, so that massively is disproportionate to what everyone else is doing at the minute. But for Gary to go on and do that shows a confidence within his game. He's scoring very well. And apart from that blip night he had where he went from 7 of 8 on the doubles first night to 1 from 8 the following night, he's looked very good. And I'm still not sure if it's the darts or the action. There are occasions where he does have those drop of form, those odd 2-3 legs, and it's about staying competitive within those legs if he's going to go on and be in that top 4 and compete for the trophy. But there's still signs in the action that I think he isn't over the back injury, and that makes me think he might never be. I still think there's the odd twerk or the odd early release that means he just doesn't quite trust it 100%. Which is a shame because a fully fit Gary Anderson is one of the greatest talents of all time. His form 2-3 years ago was unbelievable. Every time he stepped on stage, he was electric. So if he finds that and he can just carry on with this consistency, he'll still get close to winning titles, just not to the same extent he did 2-3 years ago.
No, agreed. And a big 2 points for Gary Anderson. Moving on. What a game this was from both players here. Peter Wright losing 8-6 to the Iceman Gary Price. Gezi on the move right now, playing some unbelievable stuff the last 2 nights. Peter Wright missing 9 darts, second night in a row. 50 grand was 1 dart away. And it was closer to Southend. However, just a great game from both of them. And look, we'll touch on Peter in a minute, but Gezi, it's looking quite tidy, quite polished right now. After not playing at all well, at the click of a fingers, he's found it.
Yeah, I think after the Glenn Durrant loss and the social media incident after that, I wasn't expecting the performances we've had the last two nights. I thought he'd be a little bit more timid, a little bit more apologetic, but he's just gone up back on stage. He made his apology and he's got back to being a professional darts player that's got two really good results in two nights to back up the early form that he had back in the bubble, where he corrected that abysmal leg difference. And now he looks like a real threat to make finals day.
Yeah, no, definitely. Jar, what was your thoughts on the Gezi upturn in form?
Not a surprise. He's the world number bloody 3. I don't get why we're so surprised by this, to be brutally honest about it. Look, the thing is that he's just gone back. Well, it doesn't matter. He's gonna beat. He did bit to the Summer Series. Okay, the match play wasn't great. He even said it himself. But after the first night, where he didn't play well against Asp, he goes and destroys Gary Anderson 7-1. He then goes and puts in a Premier League whitewash against the contender Jermaine Watsamina. Okay, the Glenn Durrant incident we all know, we've all discussed anyway, so that's that. But then he's gone and beaten the previous world champion in Michael Van Gogh, a 3-time world champion, and then the current world champion's gone down despite averaging 107 against him 8-6. I don't know what we're suggesting about Gerwyn Price, because you talked about it before, Gob, about him being a Grand Slam champion in the UK Open, nothing really else more than that. But, he's a 2-time Grand Slam champion, twice UK Open finalist, Player Championship finalist, World Championship semi-finalist. He's not exactly a scrub. I know you've never said that, by the way. I'm not putting words in your mouth. But, look, I'm not surprised by this. And I think this is a similar thing. I'm more concerned about Snakebite, if you want me to be brutally honest, because that's 3 straight great games that he's had, and he's lost. That's another big loss for Peter Wright. Like, he obviously had the win against, lost against Gary on Friday, averaging 101.5. He then loses to Daryl Gurney despite averaging 103 and hitting a 9-darter. And then he goes and averages 107, misses a 9, just like he did on Thursday, and loses to 8-6 for Gerwyn Price. It's all gravy, throwing 107 average, but it don't mean jack crap if you can't win it.
Talking of the 9-dart, did we all think he was going to hit it or miss it as he went for that double 12?
No chance.
For 50
No
bands?
chance. No chance. Look, he just didn't look right. I'll be brutally honest about it. Like, it was on Thursday. On Thursday, you just thought it would go in. I was more surprised that he hit it on Saturday night. Sorry, on Friday night, excuse me, when he hit the 9-dart. Was it Saturday? No, it was Saturday. All days blending into one at this point. But no, I was more surprised that he actually hit it on Saturday. But to have 3 9-dart chances in 1 week is ridiculous, by the way. Can we just say that now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first miss is understandable. He's never had one on stage. That's the pressure. The second one is quality. The third one, I think that 8th dart is a little bit loose, and that panics him. And I think he throws that double 12 way too quick with what's on the line. That'll be going through his head. And that dart just being that little bit wobbly, I think that got to him, and he's rushed it and dragged it horribly. But I agree with Wright's form. He is finding ways to lose games, no matter what the standard is, no matter how good he's thrown. He is finding ways to lose games in a minute. And that's the complete opposite of where you want to be. We thought he'd corrected this form at the start of the bubble. And then, like I said, the last 3 nights, it just hasn't gone very well for him. Gezi the opposite, I suppose. He's found ways to win, and he keeps producing.
100%. Before we go on to game number 3, just one for Daz on YouTube. It will be Russ and George again for the last 4 games, mate. Anyone that was tested at the start goes back in. So, unfortunately, we won't see Paul, Q, or Kirk. It will be Russ and George all over again. Right, moving on to match number 3. The world number 1, MBG, beating Bully Boy Michael Smith 8 legs to 5. And He's back. He's back. No, only joking. But a very good
I disagree.
performance from the world number one. I thought he played some really good stuff, and there was pure emotion on stage again. Something that we haven't seen for a long time. Owning that stage, dominating that stage.
Yeah, you know what we talked about, Phil, on Friday after the win against Asp, right? When I talked about the moment where we in Harry Potter where we Cornelius Fudge does see Lord Voldemort, he's back, right? That
I love a Harry Potter reference
on Sunday. Oh, you got to love the Harry Potter reference, Scott. Come on now. That performance from Michael Van Gerwen on Sunday night was he's back because of just how brilliant a performance that was. Now, Smith, as we've all talked about, has been throwing great darts, certainly from 501 down to a double. When he gets onto a double, we all know the story. But I think that is a moment where we do have to sit up and say no about Michael Van Gerwen. I think, actually, Phil, the break has come at the wrong time for him. Because if he'd have been going into games after hitting that sort of performance, I reckon there would be no doubt in my mind that he would just try and steamroll the rest of the field and make sure he's there at finals night. But that performance from me made me sit up and take notice of Michael Van Gerwen and went, he's still here. He's still playing some unbelievable darts. And I think that was, for me, by far and away his best performance of the week.
Yeah, 100. Just because of what it meant to him, and you could see what it meant to him as well. And it was just more his stage demeanour for me. He was throwing the darts again, not just lobbing. Not lobbing was the wrong word, but you know what I mean. There was some venom in the throw again. Yes, there was a few ropey ones that were going in. Yeah, I still think there's a few going in at funny angles, but the signs are good. And he listens to everything. He listens to Wayne writing him off and people like that. And he's like, hang on a minute, I'm not having any of this whatsoever. And more importantly, he's back in destiny's in his own hands. Because if he'd have lost last night, huge trouble for the world number one. As it is, it's all back in his own hands. Then last up of the 4 games, the league leader and the best player in the world at the moment, Glendoran, winning 8-3 over... Shake your finger all you want, Jar. I'm in charge of the intro, so I can say what I want. 8-3 victory over Darren Gurney.
That's how it works on this show.
See Phil doing the volleyball, teeing it up for me, and I'm just going to smash it down in your face.
Yes.
8-3 victory, Gob. And again, another decent performance coming off the back of a ropey one against Gary. Bounce back, another 100+ average from him. He's on the hallowed 19 points, which should be enough to book him a place at finals night. Mathematically not certain, but for the last 5 years, 19 points has been the holy grail. And again, just looked so good again last night.
Yeah, he just moved through the gears early on. Daryl just had no answer every time Daryl got close to possibly pinching a leg early on. Glenn stepped in and did what Glenn did. I think that the performance against Gary wasn't the level that we'd seen from him all week. And I think maybe he was carrying the weight of expectation of how well he's been playing, people talking Glenn's form up and being top of the league and being that comfortable. And I think that sort of got to him a bit. But that fight back at the end was magnificent. But the performance last night was class once again from Glenn. And it's all well and good saying 19 points is the holy grail to get you in. There's no way Glenn Dorrant finishes on 19 points. He's in. He's in the finals night. And he genuinely, like he admitted for the first time, should be looking at top in this Premier League now because he's opened up that gap. He's playing better than everybody else in the bubble. He is the best player in the world right now. The most difficult man to beat. And I just think he's set up now to go on. And the worst thing for Glenn is that we're not playing finals night in this bubble at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. If finals night's on Sunday, he wins the whole thing. I've got no doubt about that whatsoever. But like we spoke about before, the gap between finishing Saturday night and the 22nd of October, that anything can happen in that period, as that's a week's a long time in darts, let alone 4. So there, but the result did Daryl Gurney no favours, probably ending his playoff hopes again. Mathematically can still get there, but from here it would take one monumental effort from Super Chin to make the playoffs. I think it's fair to say. So there it is, the league table. Glen Durrant sits top, played 12, won 8, drawn 3, only lost 1 game in 12 Premier League games. That's unbelievable.
Can I just jump in there really quick? Can I just jump in there really quickly? To have a plus 27 leg difference, that is ridiculous. Plus 27 is mind blowing, and he can still. I think he can. Obviously, if he wins all 4 games, I think I saw a stat from Jay Shaw, who works obviously on live darts, that he can actually go and break the Premier League record. Because obviously the Premier League record's 26. Yeah, for points in the league. So if he still to do that in your debut year, look, I know I've talked about him not being the best player in the world, but to do that in your debut year is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
No, I agree. Then second, I didn't think we'd say this, but Gary Anderson is second in the Premier League. Played 12, won 6, drawn 3, lost 3. Plus 5 leg difference, 15 points. Good position for Gary Anderson right now. And I can just see by Gob's little twinkle in his eye there. He's like, oh, Gary.
I agree. I didn't see it coming. And with all due respect, looking at his next 2 fixtures, they're Michael Smith and I've just lost it now. Daryl Gurney. They're 2 very winnable fixtures, the form that the other 2 are carrying. Yes, last week we got a bit carried away and declared that the form Michael Smith was carrying before this event, he was going to win it. That's not the case anymore. And at the minute, they're 2 very, very good fixtures for Gary to go on and actually put Glenn under pressure. Because Glenn's last 4 fixtures are not the nicest. And I get you're never going to get nice fixtures in the Premier League, but the way they fall in the order they fall, it could have been nicer for Glenn to round off his opening Premier League phase campaign.
Agree. In third, the world number 1 back into the playoffs after spending a night outside that line. He was the wrong side of the line, but he's put that right. Back into third, 14 points, played 12, won 7, drawn none. That's an interesting one for Michael, and that's why I think he's still in contention, because of the draws do you no favours whatsoever. But plus 7, 14 points. Interesting listening to him talk yesterday, and a really good interview and a really honest interview, I thought, from him, that he says, look, yes, I can still win the league. It's out of my hands, but I genuinely believe I can still win it. Can he?
No.
Yeah, he can.
Glenn needs
I'm
2
not
out
saying
of 4.
he will.
Yeah, but if Michael beats Glenn,
remember,
then does Glenn start thinking?
That's the 3rd night. No, it's not.
The second night, mate.
It's the second night. Sorry.
But I don't know is the God's honest truth. I think it all depends on what happens on the first night back when we are back on Wednesday. Because MVG's got Peter Wright. That is a massive game, obviously. It always is. But it does beat Michael Smith on Wednesday night. Michael Van Goen can't win this Premier League. If he doesn't, and Van Goen beats Price, Van Goen certainly still can.
Interesting. And then in fourth, it is the Iceman Garen Price. Phil, look.
I mean, look, it's a very unlikely thing, but, you know, I never thought I'd be alive to see Liverpool win the league, and that happened.
Oh.
oh, body shot. And in fourth,
sorry, mate,
is the Iceman Garen Price. Played 12, won 5, drawn 3, lost 4, plus 12. That's a huge leg difference, 13 points, which is the reason Nathan Aspinall finds himself outside in 5th, because him and Gezi are both on level points. But plus 12 is an absolute whopper of a leg difference.
Wasn't he -5 at the end of, or something like that? Wasn't he like -5 or -6 at the start of the week?
Something like that. But then you think
13
he won
in 2 games, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, when 14 out of 15 legs doesn't half help your leg difference. No, look, the thing is that I think what was more impressive actually for Gezi this week was how well he played against, admittedly, an out of sorts MVG, but still the fact that he went and did the job on him and get himself up into that top 4 from where he was at the start of the week. I had no hope of Gerwyn Price getting anywhere near the top 4 at the start of this week, and to go and win 4 out of your last 5 takes some stones, especially with the way that Peter Wright was playing last night as well. To stay with him and to do that was mint.
100%. Peter Wright in 6th, 12 points. It's just so tight. It's unbelievable. And Michael Smith in 7th with 11 points. Then Daryl Gurney in 8th on 8 points. Probably too much to do. However, Michael Smith's only 1 win from going back into the top 4. That's how tight from 4 down to 7 it is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And he's scoring well enough to put big performances in and just take legs away and seriously improve that leg difference as well. But his doubles have been so poor this week for the 2nd Premier League in a row. It's cost him so many places. I genuinely think if he'd been 5% better on his doubles, which doesn't seem that significant, he'd be top 3 right now. He's just been playing that well until he gets below 100. And it just hasn't been there for him, no matter what modus operandi he's gone for, no matter what double checkout he's favoured when he's tried to switch around the board. It just hasn't been there for him. If he puts it right, he's still definitely in with a chance. The interesting one for me is Nathan Aspinall, because his first 2 games back is the man above him in the table and the man below him in the table.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's go through Wednesday night's fixtures. Night 13 in Milton Keynes. First up, Glenn Durrant against Michael Smith. Daryl Gurney against Gary Anderson. Peter Wright against MVG in a repeat of the World Championship final. And last up, Gerwyn Price against Nathan Aspinall. What a set of fixtures to bring us back to the Premier League after a few days off. Now, let's be fair. They've all got something on them. And out of them all, Gary Anderson will be happiest with his set of fixtures to bring him back in. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
I don't know
100%.
because
Gurney, Michael Smith, the 2 men that have lost the most games in the last few weeks, is 100% the way you'd want to be starting.
Oh no, sorry, I thought
Gurney
you were talking about just
basically out of contention.
Yeah. If he wins both of them 4 points, he's at the O2 or wherever it will be.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about just on Wednesday. No, absolutely, totally agree with you. Yeah, Gurney and Smith is not a bad one. You then got to place Michael Van Gerwen, okay, and then Gerwyn Price. But certainly get yourself into that position of the O2 / Milton Keynes, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, might not be Milton Keynes
that
either.
First game's massive as well. Oi.
Yeah, 100%.
Just cast that out.
Yeah, just throw that one out, by the way, as a as a nibble. By the way,
but yeah, we'll gloss over that. But the first game is huge because if Glenn wins it, he is there. It is guaranteed. Like it's pretty much done, and you can almost hand him the cash bonus for finishing top of this Premier League. I just think he'll settle in. Despite the fixtures he's got coming after that, I still think he picks up at least a point, and then Michael needs to go 4 from 4. And I'm just not sure that I see it with the form that he's carried at the minute. He's already lost 5. If Smith wins, he's back in contention, and that's massive. And that then gives Gary an opportunity to start chasing, and it puts so much pressure on the Gezi and Nathan Aspinall game as well.
And also puts huge
100%.
pressure on Wright against MVG. Obviously, that you say that first game's massive because as well as that, you've obviously got the spell, if you like, of Peter Wright against Michael Van Gerwen. But then if Wright wins that game, he could then find himself bouncing back into the top 4, which would be unbelievable, and it would overtake MVG as well, unless it's an 8-6 or something like that. So it's one of those.
Here's one for you. Does Peter Wright go back to the World Championship darts for the last 4 games?
Yes. He's got to.
You'd have to ask Peter that.
I say yes. He'll probably do it for night. Well, yeah, look, I'd expect him to for night 1, and then he'll average 101, maybe lose 8-6, and then he'll go, "Why am I losing?" and change again. That's just what Peter Wright does. I'm sure he has I'm sure he brings 2 suitcases with him just to Milton Keynes just for his darts.
There is that.
I don't know. I just think it's that long ago that he used them for that World Championship, and he's tinkered that much. I'm not sure it would have the immediate pickup that we expect. He's not playing badly, right? At the minute, he's being done by some exceptional timing from his opponents who are putting in good performances on his bad legs and pinching those tight games. He's not playing badly, right? I'll repeat that. He's just on the wrong end of some good results and some good performances, and we've seen that in the past. But he's mentally strong enough. He's won enough. And he's got the consistency of the high-level game to turn it around and steer himself into that finals night.
But then, of course, as well, right, if Peter Wright then decides to, Peter Wright manages to keep those darts and he's still averaging 106 and this time beats Michael van Gerwen, that then gives Michael van Gerwen a hell of a run in. Because he's then got Durrett the next night on Thursday. He's then got Gary Anderson on Friday, which, who we just lost to 7-4. And then he ends the week with Daryl Gurney. But if he loses those three games there, he won't get anywhere close to 20 points, which will get you in. The maximum he can get if he loses those 3 games, which is possible, is 16 points. Now, admittedly, I don't think he will allow Glenn Durrant to beat him again on Thursday night, because we all know that when you get absolutely when you batter the world number 1 like Glenn did on Thursday night. On Wednesday night, he doesn't allow you to beat him twice, especially after you beat him by such a distance in the first time, and secondly, more importantly, when you're 3-0 against him.
Right, gentlemen, it's come to that time. I'm going to put you both on the spot. From this moment in time, which 4 players make finals night? Starting with you, Gob.
Hey, love that.
The top 2 are in. Glenn Durrant and Gary Anderson make finals night for me. I don't see them dropping off massively. I think that they need less than half or half the points on offer. 1 win and a draw will definitely see Duzzer in. I think Gary could sneak in on 18 as well, maybe. Just because the way the fixtures are worked out without looking at it, they're going to take points off each other. There's going to be scraps around it. I think Gezi sneaks in as well. I think he's playing very well. I think his fixtures, I know it's the Premier League. I know these are the top guys in the world, but I just think that they've fallen pretty nicely. He's got Glenn and he's got MVG out the way. And he still has to play. Yes, Aspinall's a scrap to start with, but he plays Gurney and then Michael Smith in a row. They could both be done by the time he plays them. They're then playing for position and prize money against each other. So I think Gezi's in. I think it's that 4th spot. And it all depends which Michael turns up on his return. Yes, that performance the last night was the return. He's back of Michael van Gerwen. But if he loses to Snakebite on the return opening night, he's in a lot of trouble. Aspinall is very, very consistent, is scrapping for points. Peter Wright, you still wouldn't write him off, despite the fact he again has got a tough fixture set. I'm going to call Peter Wright over Michael van Gerwen.
Whoa! Hello!
Wow!
Welcome to the show, Gob. Pipe bomb, MVP doesn't make the top 4.
He absolutely he loves dropping the big show.
Over to you. How do you follow that?
Top of the league will be Gary Anderson. He will find a way to go top.
Is that to back up your claim earlier so you don't look like an idiot?
Top of the league will be Gary Anderson. He will find a way to do it. Look, the reason why I'm saying this is because I reckon, and I've always said on the shows that we've been doing podcast-wise, that I will stick my house on the fact that Michael Van Gerwen will beat Glenn Durrant on Thursday night. And I think that what is going to happen. And the reason why is because there's no way that MVG lets us go 4-0. Absolutely no chance on that. So Gary Anderson will finish top. He'll find a way to do it, and I think he beats MVG. Glenn will finish second. It'll be close, but just. I think it may all come down to a bit of leg difference here and there, maybe the odd point or something like that, but that's what I think is going to happen. Third place will be Michael Van Gerwen, because that is just what happens. He turns up and he gets into the top 4 minimum. And then fourth place, I'm going to go for the other debutant, Mr. Bars. I'm going to go with Nathan Aspinall to crack the top 4. So my top 4 are in this order. Number 1, Gary Anderson. Number 2, Glenn Durrant. Number 3, Michael Van Gerwen. And number 4, Nathan Aspinall.
Right. Mine.
You know Nathan plays Glenn on the final night, don't you?
And by that point, either Gary will already have won by that point, I think, in my opinion. I think he plays him...
Right.
No, sorry, he plays, excuse me. There's a place at Aspinall before. It's very interesting, but Aspinall beat Durrant, the only player to beat him so far in the Premier League, Mr. Garwood.
Right, my top 4 is as follows. Glenn Durrant becomes only the 3rd player ever to top the Premier League phase. Second is Michael Van Gerwen. I think he goes 4 from 4 when we return. I'm going.
You think that he beats Glenn Durrant as well?
Yes, I think he goes 4.
I knew I liked you, Mr. Bars.
Puts pressure on Durrant, but Durrant just gets over the line to pip him. But MVG goes close. Third, I'm going for Gary Anderson. Just like what I see at the moment. And right now, I think the Iceman finishes 4th. Because, again, I like what I see at the moment from him compared to the others. So, Glenn Durrant, Michael Van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, Gerwyn Price is my top 4.
I'll say this very, very quickly. Can we appreciate the fact that we, at this moment in time, could have a Premier League semi-final between Michael Van Gerwen and Gary Anderson, first to 10 legs, just like the blue touch paper, put your feet up and enjoy it.
This is the thing, though, that once it goes to that, if Michael Van Gerwen makes that top 4, longer format, you wouldn't back against him, would you?
I would.
It's the same format as the opening round of the match play. Just putting that out there.
And also the same format.
Not been very good at that.
The UK Open. At the end of the UK
Open,
he's
been a bit good at that, but he's not been very good at the match play, and the UK Open doesn't support my claim. So let's not let facts get in the way of this.
Yeah, but hang on, though. You say that. This is the point where people were talking. No, hang on. People were talking about this, and we were talking about this the other day. I still maintain that Van Gerwen didn't obliterate the field at the UK Open. Yeah, great performance against Nathan Aspinall. Go on.
I'm going to stop you in your tracks there because I saw you put this on Twitter the other day, and I did some investigational work.
Oh, here he comes.
Where's me sheet? Don't worry, I might have preempted this one.
This is 100% in an iPhone note. You've been waiting for this, haven't you?
You've been waiting for me to bold this claim.
So, Michael Van Gerwen didn't play too good at the UK Open. Right. In round number 1, he beats Nathan Aspinall 10-8 with 105.48 average.
Okay.
It's all right.
Round number 2.
Carry on.
Fair play.
round number 2 was the slight
The
wobble.
Jason-
He beat Jason Lowe
The
10-9
slight
with
wobble?
a 95 point. But not 95
The
average
slight
isn't
wobble.
shite. But that's the
No,
only one.
Right.
So
What was that average
hang on,
against
hang on,
Jason
what-
Lowe in the first 15 legs?
Yeah, about to
it doesn't
say
tell
he
me
could
that,
have been
but I'm just going
whitewashed.
overall
Phill.
average.
He could have been
However, he wasn't,
whitewashed.
and he still
Jason
won
Lowe
with
had
a 95.5 average.
He
Moving
could have
on
been
into round
whitewashed.
number 6 of the UK Open.
Yeah.
He absolutely obliterates James Wade 10-5,
He does.
109.85.
He does.
Quarterfinals obliterates Rob Cross 110.81. Semi-final obliterates Darryl Gurney 110.32. And in the final,
With a 9-dart
wins
finish.
11-9 with a 101.41 average. So in a major ranked PDC tournament, his lowest average was 95 and a bit.
But
He's done that 3 times in
you're
this Premier
missing
League
the
in
point.
5 nights, by the way.
Yeah, and also
All
quickly,
the other averages.
we're missing this point. We're missing the point here. We are missing the point here. He should have been and could have been whitewashed on Saturday afternoon. Jason Lowe had darts to win every single one of those legs in the first 5, and he actually won the session 5-0.
Look, don't let me whack out the Gino De Campo reference again.
Look, he didn't obliterate the field. He could have been out. He could have been out of the tournament in round 5. You can't obliterate the field if you're going average 95. It could have been whitewashed, man. I'm not debating that after the Wade, Cross, and Gurney. I am not debating you that those 3 consecutive games. I have not seen a better televised set of performances from Michael van Gerwen in a row since probably when he was winning tournaments left, right, and centre in 16 and 17. Okay, but that Saturday afternoon performance, I cannot get over just how poor it was. And he was. If Jason Lowe had been able to win any one of those legs, he would have been going home.
But he didn't, and he went on to lift the title in pure MVG fashion. So, gentlemen, we've got our top 4. We're going to finals night. Who wins the Premier League from here based on your top 4?
Gary.
What?
Gary.
No, I love it. Don't do this to me, man. Don't do this to me.
Gary.
It's the hope that kills you. Don't do it to me.
Gary. He goes and does it. Gary goes and wins his 3rd Premier League title. I think, look, in my opinion, it will be a great game. If it is 2nd and 3rd, I think the big thing for Gary, obviously, because I'm going at it, that he will finish top and MVG will finish 3rd. I actually believe, and you're going to kill me for this, I know, but I actually believe that Glenn Durrett knocks out Michael van Gerwen in the semi-finals. And Gary goes and beats Glenn Durrett in the final.
Bob, over to you.
I'm just trying to reenact that gif.
I know you're going to want to absolutely kill me at this point. Do you know what? Do you know what? We threw around acts throughout the entire point over the last few days on this show. So let's just throw in everything at this moment in time. No, I reckon Gary finishes top. He beats Nathan Aspinall in the semi-final. Glenn and Michael put on a clinic, but Glenn manages to beat Michael van Gerwen in the semi-final, and then Gary beats Glenn. That's my finals night.
Simple as that. Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for finally agreeing with me once.
or a no context turn. You're in the headband. You are different gravy.
Anytime today, love. That'd be great.
I know one of the finalists.
Which is?
It's Gerwyn Price. I think he beats Gary. I think they finished 2 and 3. It's whether or not I think that Snakey does a number on Glenn as a one-off. or Glenn keeps his form. And I think that very much depends on if we play it at the end of this week or if we play it in a month and a half's time.
The final is on the 22nd, so factor that in.
Then I think Snakey gets his act together by then. And we see a Snakey Gezi final.
And who wins that final?
Oh, wow.
Is it repeat or revenge of the Grand Slam?
The world champion wins the Premier League.
So hang on a minute, right? But Phill, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've got to come in here. So you have just spent the last 5 days trying to tell me that Glenn Durrant is the best player in the world, and then if he finishes top of the Premier League, at the top of the Premier League, and you're not even getting him to make the final.
Yes. Simple.
This man has got a serious set of bollocks on him. Come out
which is exactly the same.
The...
Which is exactly how I feel about Peter Wright. I just think with that much time to prepare for a semi-final, he will get it correct. He is capable of finishing at the same level as Glenn Durrant, and I think he groups the scoring dart that little bit better. And I think with time to prepare, with Glenn not being on the board or just practicing or with the autumn series or whatever else is in between, not having this consistently, I think that Snakey turns it round, puts in that performance, and we see him in the final. And in the final, he's got the edge over Gezi.
Just quickly, Phill, I'll just say really quickly, it all depends, obviously, when we know this final obviously happens on October 22nd, I think we'll know a lot more about whether Glenn could sustain this form after the World Grand Prix in Coventry.
Yeah, we'll come on to that shortly.
I'm also
irrelevant.
Is concerned about Glenn playing 2 games in one night. Because he's made PDC semi-finals and he looks tired when it goes, hey, all right, this distance isn't massive first to 10, but to play twice in that night, he does seem to drop a little bit towards those longer matches towards the end of the week when he's been at it and at it and at it. And yes, we haven't seen that in the Premier League so far, but they are still that little bit shorter. I think even if Glenn does make the final, I'd be worried about a drop-off in performance. Even it, though, being top ranked, he'd play first and then have the gap.
Right, mine. So, based on what I thought, Glenn Durrant beats Gerwyn Price in semi-final number 1, booking a place in the final. The El Clasico of darts in semi-final number 2. NBG beats Gary Anderson, setting up the dream final, in my opinion.
Well, there's a surprise, Philip. You've backed the green machine.
I'm glad.
Surprise, surprise, the sun might come up in the morning.
All I'm saying is I may have had a slight flutter on MVG to win the Premier League when he was outside the playoffs because the odds were slightly inviting. And in the final, I'm going MVG to beat Glenn Durrant in the Premier League final.
I don't know.
Despite being 0-4 against him by that point.
He's not going to be 0-4 against him, Gob. It's going to be 1-3.
There it is, Jar. There it is. That was too easy.
Right, so that is a look back at the Premier League. Right, we're just going to go flick to some YouTube questions. Thanks for everyone that's got involved. It's been amazing, as always, putting your top 4 requests in. A lot of people, Durrant, Anderson, right, pretty much a lot of people going with us. Disagree there, Harry. Yeah,
seen a lot of people
been dead.
Yeah, I'm just saying very quickly. I've seen a lot of people on the YouTube comments tonight going Anderson, Durrant, Price, and Wright. They're all suggesting that the green machine drops out.
In the words
because of the three of us, they know I am superior and are backing me.
Well, that's never been true in any podcast.
Not just the prettiest face here.
Oh God.
Daz Reynolds, where is the World Grand Prix being played in Coventry? It is at the Ricoh Arena, bubbled behind closed doors. That news broke this week, very similar to Milton Keynes, mate. So the World Grand Prix leaves Dublin. It's no longer double out in Dublin.
Very good. We saw a lot of angry Coventry City fans on our Twitter feed because of that news being broken. I was surprised. A lot of angry Coventry City fans. Sorry, Akpov. Not our fault.
Yeah. Daz, how do we stream the home tour? The home tour is on PDC TV and all good bookmaker sites, mate. That's the only way you can watch the PDC home tour too. So yeah. Hi Rob. Can I have a shout out from the guy in the buzz cut and the black t-shirt, please?
No, we cannot because he sat downstairs, the miserable mess. If he eats my Domino's that's on the way before we finish, I'm going to knock him out.
Love that. Love to be friendly back there.
Yes.
But yeah, guys, quick one. What do we think on the World Grand Prix in Coventry?
Well, it's only 20 minutes from my house, so I can't wait. Right down the bubble there. Beautiful scenes. Get everybody event there. Keep it. There's a brilliant hotel called the St. John's Hotel in Solihull. It's only about 2 minutes down the road. Put it there. No, honestly, it had to come away from Dublin with everything that was going on with the City West being used for coronavirus, and obviously Milton Keynes wasn't available. I like it. You know, I've always said the Ricoh is a really good place. Like the actual indoor arena is going to be hosting the netball for the Commonwealth Games in 2022, and it's a really good setup. Very, very similar to what is there at Milton Keynes, and yeah, I think it's a very, very good move. But I can't lie. I want it to move back to the City West, not in Dublin, but outside of Dublin. Next year. I think it just suits the place. As much as we don't like going there because of having to drive about 40 minutes outside of Dublin to get to the venue every single time.
Quick one, Jar. As you're a local there, the important question, is there a Wagamama's on site?
I've got some bad news for you, Phil. There is a casino, yes. There is a casino there.
I think that will suit the players more as well. I think that will keep them a little bit more entertained than perhaps what Milton Keynes has to offer in the downtime, if they're allowed to use it, obviously, depending on what's bubbled. I like the Ricoh. That was my first experience of PDC darts. I went to watch a development tour and a pro tour there, and the setup's decent. Hopefully, I don't think there's a balcony, Phil, so maybe we won't have the games in the background of our interviews as well. Maybe you'll be in a little room off the side, perhaps. So that might help as well. But yeah, it's a decent setup there.
Yeah. Cool. Also, as well, some other comments. Go on, John.
Yeah, just to say quickly for you, Phil. Big news. There is a Waggers in Coventry. It's about a 15-minute drive, though.
Did somebody say just eat?
wrong company, not that I know, but Wagamama's on Deliveroo. Anyway, let's move on to the questions. Daz Reynolds, any news on the match play for next year? Yes, mate. Look, as long as everything is as normal as it can be, the match play will be back at Blackpool at the Winter Gardens. I would stake my life on that. As long as we're allowed fans in, it will be at the Winter Gardens, mate. Bobby, can Glendoran win the Grand Prix? Of course he can.
Yes.
He's the best double hitter there is. Of course he can win the Grand Prix. 1, 2, 3, Kieran, how does snooker allow fans but darts not at the moment? We can tell you that, mate. The World Championship snooker was done as a test event by the government. That's why they were allowed 300 fans in. Listening to what's going on, the PDC are genuinely still hopeful that there will be some fans in for the Premier League finals on the 22nd of October. So fingers crossed they are trying.
I don't see why not.
But
football will be back at a capacity by then, all the way up to the Premier League. Hopefully, I get that's outside and that's a little bit different, but yeah, I just think that we're at that point now where we are going to start integrating society back to a little bit more normality. There might be the odd restriction on social distancing within and all that sort of thing, but I do think we're getting closer to a return to capacity events.
Yeah, I agree.
The big thing for me,
listening to them. Go on, Joe.
No, I was just going to say that I think the big thing for me is that what you'll see probably in a long time, certainly World Championships and everything else, if we're going to get fans in, there's not going to be anybody in the seated areas. So if you've ever watched Ali Pali before, obviously I think a lot of our listeners and viewers have. If you ever watched Ali Pali have that big seating block behind the tables, that's probably not going to be there this year. Everyone's going to be on the tables, much like it's going to be in Salzburg for the World Series of Darts finals. Everyone's going to have their own exit. Everyone's going to have their own entrance. It's just, I think that's the best way to be.
Fingers crossed there will be some fans on for the Premier League. Evening, Patrick. Any chance of the playoffs next Sunday? When I left Milton Keynes yesterday, mate, absolutely no chance. They are adamant that it is the 22nd of October, as we said earlier. I don't think it will be at the O2. But as they said, playoffs will be then, mate. So don't get me wrong. I know things changes on a daily basis with everything that's going on, but as of yesterday, no chance the playoffs are Sunday. Cheers for answering. Great feed. No worries. Cheers, mate. Daz, who will Sky Sports' next presenter be, please? Now, if we all knew that, we could be a very rich man. We don't know is the honest answer. Chatting to a couple of the guys from Sky, they're playing around with ideas at the moment. They don't know who they really want to succeed Dave Clark. And let's be fair, one person trying to succeed Dave Clark is like trying to step into Santa Claus's shoes. It's just almost impossible. So I think up until and including the Worlds, we'll see a variation of Sky Sports presenters heading stuff up, is my take. I think Nigel Pearson's done a great job. I think Emma Payton done a great job the night she done. I'm not a fan of Andy Goldstein personally. Must don't get me wrong. I like his radio show and everything like that, but it showed up of his lack of darts knowledge. And darts is one of those niche sports that we all love. If your knowledge isn't there, you get found out rather quick. Look, Goldstein is a great presenter, but just not for the darts for me personally. Guys, any thoughts on
I'm not sure.
presenters?
I quite like Goldstein. I think Pearson's done fantastic, but I think for the World Championships, trying to do that and commentate would be massive. And obviously with Rod Studd still away from Sky at the minute on his recovery journey, I don't think you can really ask him to do both. I just think that would be too much for the block of time. I think Emma was class. I like Andy Goldstein, and I agree with the knowledge to an extent, but I don't think he had the snooker knowledge when he first started for Eurosport, and I think he's built that up over doing events and being in and around that atmosphere where he just had no opportunity or no interest in presenting darts for a while. I think he can build that back up if that's the way they want to go. I like Michael Bridge. I think he's got a lot of knowledge. Obviously, he's involved with the Sky podcast, was doing interviews this week. I don't see why not. And obviously, everybody's favourite, Dan Dawson. There's plenty of options and opportunities at the minute. Jackie Oatley on ITV does a fantastic job. Could she make the switch maybe when the ITV contract's up? There's plenty of options for Sky. I think there's enough events and enough nights that they can trial people before they make a dead set decision. Obviously, for the Worlds, we know Croft will be back in and maybe even Laura Wood. So that's 7 or 8 names we've just mentioned. I don't think they need to make a decision this year with everything that's going on. I don't think it will be back to normal massively. They can chop and change a little bit and then start the year next year with a new dedicated host of Sky Sports Darts.
I think personally what's going to happen is that Rod Studd will when he's back, who knows when it's going to be. He's saying he's going to be available for the Grand Prix. Be amazing to see him there for the Grand Prix. Hopefully he'll be back for finals night for the Premier League. If not, he'll definitely be back for the World Championships. There's no doubt about that. We've all met Rod. We all know what he's like. He's a fighter, and there's no chance that he will never be that he'll be fighting anywhere near the World Championships. If he can get anywhere near the World Championships, he will bloody be there. And that's why we love him, to be brutally honest, because he's that kind of a guy. Look, the names you just mentioned, Michael Bridge, Dan Dawson, absolutely would not have a problem with either one of them presenting in particular. I've got no problem at all with Goldstein either. Thought he was very, very good for more for the casual viewer, I think, actually, trying to talk about people. Because let's be honest with ourselves, we're broadcasting here to a dedicated darts audience. I don't want to go down the niche route of broadcasting because we'll be here all night, but we're broadcasting to a dedicated darts audience that watch us here. People who watch the Premier League, watch the World Championships. They're not probably darts fans throughout the year. People that go to the Premier League in particular aren't darts fans throughout the entire year. Maybe watch the match play and that's about it. And I think that Goldstein really talks to the viewer, those kind of viewers that well, talks about people with betting. I know people aren't really that big fans of betting. I understand that, but he gets the casual punter. And I think that's the key for me on that one. Emma Pacing was brilliant in what she did as well. I thought as well. And Nigel is a consummate professional. We all know how good Nigel Pearson is. So there's that. In my opinion, and this is only my opinion, I would like to see David Croft be the new host. I think he's an absolutely excellent presenter. I think that he is a brilliant presenter. Oh, you laughing there? You're laughing there, Phill. Why is that?
Because there's this nice niche little thing that he does called Formula One. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes, but I watch it every single week, mate. I should have been in Belgium I should have been in Belgium this weekend, but I think that look, I absolutely love Crofty. I think he's a brilliant F1 commentator. I've listened to him since 2006 when he got the gig. But if you look at the reaction on socials, he's starting to get a little bit too excited maybe on F1. And I don't think that they'll ever drop him from the F1 contract. I don't want them to. But if they were to move him into that Sky Sports darts host role, that'd be brilliant. I'd like Laura Woods as well. But like you say, she's probably going to be the new role of football. And, rightly so. So I would personally like to see Crofty do most of the World Championships and then go on. I understand that he gets paid a good chunk of money to be the main broadcaster of Formula One, main commentator of Formula One for a lot of territories. But in an ideal world, I'd like David Croft to be the new host. But either one of the guys that have presented on Sky recently, Michael Bridge, Dan Dawson, Laura Woods herself, and maybe even Rod when he comes back, I wouldn't have a problem with either one of them. They're all brilliant.
Right, guys, what a perfect way to conclude this week's Live Lounge. We've taken you through just about everything in the world of darts that we need to as of late. Remember, we are back in Milton Keynes on Wednesday night, bringing you all the reaction as it happens from the bubble. Of course, we'll have the Live Lounge daily as well, the pod bringing you up to date with everything if you can't watch our stuff on YouTube. Just would like to thank everyone that's watched on YouTube this evening. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for everyone that's got involved with your questions. It's been amazing. I'm Phill Bars, Jack Gobby-Gar with Jarleth, and thank you very much as always, gentlemen. And we will be back next week for another Online Darts Live Lounge. Gentlemen, as always, we shall see you very soon. Thank you very much, guys. Wave to the camera, everyone. Say bye.